Hey there, Cowboys fans, and welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Tom, let's get into some rapid rumors and news to start right here off the top. Lots going on in Cowboys world. First up, Kris Richard. He's hired.
Done deal. It is pronounced Richard, by the way. Did get that wrong on the most recent Cowboys Report.
Sad.
But to be fair, so did literally everyone else that I have listened to around the Cowboys.
All right, more coaching news. Rod Marinelli, he's back.
Yeah,
4 stars as well.
Yeah, Marinelli's going to stay with the Cowboys for at least one more year. He did contemplate retirement, but he is back for the Dallas Cowboys. He will remain the defensive coordinator.
All right, number 3 here, more coaching. Kellen Moore, he's the quarterback's coach. It's now 4 stars, right, Tom?
Yeah, this was one we were waiting on it to happen because we knew it was going to happen, but it's been more or less confirmed by the Joneses. They said it's not pen to paper, but it's going to happen.
All right, let's get into not quite 4 stars. Mark Colombo, is he going to be the tight ends coach? People are talking.
This was a little weird to me because he did interview for the job, but he's been the assistant offensive line coach. Now, you do have the tight ends blocking, of course, but I think it'd be a bit of an interesting hire. This might be a, hey, let's interview him and then go hire somebody else.
All right, Jason Garrett. Is his seat hot? Is it not? What is it, Tom?
Look, Jerry Jones says that he's not on Garrett's hot seat, or that Garrett isn't on Jones' hot seat, but he's on the hot seat. If the Cowboys miss the playoffs, he's gone. Jones thinks they're going to make the playoffs.
We're going to get more into these news and rumors here later on in the show. We'll talk more about this one here, Tom. All right. Hey, number 6 here. The Cowboys coaches, they aren't at the Senior Bowl.
And
What's going on?
this is different than what we typically see from the Cowboys. They're almost always there at the Senior Bowl. They're not there this year. This one is 4 stars, and I think we might have some interesting potential reasons why, Brett.
We'll let you know what all these stars mean in just a little bit. All right, Tom, long-term deal for DeMarcus Lawrence. Is it going to happen?
Well, the Cowboys say that they want one, so, yeah, it's going to happen. It's a matter of these two sides figuring out what the proper amount of money is. The Cowboys want a long-term deal, and it's going to get done.
This one's a little deceiving. I'm not so sure about this 4 stars that we're giving it. We'll talk later. All right, number 8, no long-term deal for David Irving.
This is interesting because Stephen Jones more or less came out and said, yeah, we don't think we're going to get a deal done at least for this year. We're giving it 3 stars. Look, things could change here, but looking really unlikely that he's not going to get that long-term deal. So it's 3 stars.
All right, we talked about Byron Jones last week. You guys in the comments told us he wasn't fast. We're calling it what, Tom?
It's fake news.
Fake news.
Yes, he is. And
he is fast.
And we have the data to back it up as well.
We've got it. We've got it coming up. Is Dez Bryant a distraction? Number 10 here.
I'm giving this one 3 stars because Stephen Jones more or less said yes, he is, but Jerry Jones isn't quite as negative and critical of Dez Bryant.
Jerry loves Dez?
The Joneses are disagreeing right now.
The Joneses have done a lot of contract negotiations through the media so far this week.
Perfect term.
It's been an interesting couple of days here in Cowboys land. All right, number 11, Zeke. He was a distraction last year. Duh.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, he was a distraction. It wasn't fully his fault. And that's kind of what the Cowboys said, but yeah, it's impossible for that to not have been a distraction. How many times did we talk about it? It was literally every show.
Yeah, every show. All right, one more here. Kayvon Frazier, he had knee surgery.
Not that severe, but yes, he did undergo knee surgery, kind of more of a cleanup procedure.
All right, those are our news and rumors of the day here on January 25th for the Cowboys Report. Hey, Tom, we've got a little bit of a new look Cowboys Report going on. What do you think? Do you like it?
It's sleek. I like it.
4
stars, it's good.
Producer Lane is behind the scenes making it look pretty as well. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Today's Cowboys Report is sponsored by The Guild, a new concept in hospitality located in Austin, Texas, here in Dallas, Texas, as well as new locations coming soon in Nashville, Miami, and Boston. And if you're taking a trip to any of those cities, you need to stay with The Guild. Luxury lodging at the best residential buildings. It's like a luxury Airbnb, Tom. Comes with a virtual concierge, makes you feel fancy. All right, do you know what bars to hit up when you go to Austin?
No, because I haven't been there since I was a wee lad.
Yeah, so what you do, you text that virtual concierge, they tell you where you need to go.
I like it.
It's perfect. It's great. Visit stayguild.com. Use the promo code ChatSports for 15% off your next stay. Okay, Tom, let's get it started here with some coaching updates. There's been a lot of coaching news for the Cowboys, a lot of turnover in that staff. We start on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Jason Garrett, of course, he's staying. Linehan, we know he's staying. We've given now a blue check mark for Kellen Moore because he is the new quarterback's coach. We've mentioned on previous shows that Gary Brown is back and that Sanjay Lal and Paul Alexander are the new hires for the Cowboys. So the only spot open in terms of the notable position coaches, there are some assistants to the position coach, the assistant to the regional manager. Tight end is the only open spot. We'll talk more about one interview that has already happened for the Cowboys.
Yeah, so Mark Colombo could not be. We'll see.
Be interesting.
We saw it there in our rapid rumors and news section. We'll talk and get a little bit more into that here in just a second. All right, let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball where the Cowboys did make a hire this week. Kris Richard formerly with the Seattle Seahawks, is now the new defensive backs coach.
Love this hire. And he's also going to be the passing game coordinator, so he's taking over from Matt Eberflus in that area. So we're still sitting for defensive and special teams on the new linebackers coach. Could be John Pagano. He did interview. And then Rich Bisaccia is also trying to replace him as well. But Garrett, again, back. Marinelli is back as well. Greg Jackson with Leon Led, who's kind of almost the assistant because Marinelli is so involved on the defensive line. Especially if Dallas gets John Pagano. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is a loaded defensive staff. At that point, it becomes really good.
Yeah, which is nice considering the turnover that did happen. And, frankly, there's a little bit of uncertainty around the head coach and the coordinators, both of them. So, the big change that we don't really see here from last week to this week is moving Rod Marinelli from the question mark to the green check mark. He is back.
Officially back.
All right, let's get into those news and rumors. We saw him off the top there, but let's get into him in a little bit more detail. Tom, tell us about Kris Richard.
This is a awesome hire, and it is official. It is 4 stars. He is the new defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator. So he kind of takes over for Matt Eberflus in that regard, where he's going to be actively involved in the back end of the defense in that passing game. This is a home run hire. By the Cowboys. To get a guy with defensive coordinator experience to bring him in and bring in some new blood and some young, talented blood is a great move. Look, Richard had head coaching interviews this offseason. He had one with the Indianapolis Colts. This is as good as they come on the hire side. A great hire. There will be some buzz about whether or not he can end up being the coordinator in waiting, but I don't know if that's the route the Cowboys take if we see some changes with the head coaching next year. But in terms of as they sit right now, this is a brilliant hire by the Dallas Cowboys, and I love this. This is an easy A for me on the hiring side.
Yeah, Tom, I've seen a lot of comments flowing through. Appreciate all the comments that are happening. Good one here from Stanley Cook. What's a passing game coordinator do?
So the passing game coordinator, if you're familiar with the offensive side of the ball, and it goes both ways in the end, he is going to be more involved in setting up some of the defensive schemes when it comes to stopping the pass, so that like running the dime packages. Richard's going to have a lot of input on that. He is going to be actively involved in the back 7 and setting up the coverages. I think that maybe that's the best way to describe it, as setting up the coverages and going when the Cowboys use more defensive backs and they try to stop the pass in particular.
We'll get to your guys' other comments as well. If you guys have questions, definitely hit us up here in the comments. Saw a lot of places where you guys are watching from. I saw it in Antarctica, Tom.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
awesome.
How about that?
One more note for you, Stanley. Think of passing game coordinator as the number 2 to the defensive coordinator.
Assistant to the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
All right, hey, we're throwing out a lot of stars. What do these stars mean? Here's our rumor meter here on the Cowboys Report. 0 stars. It's fake news. Eagles Super Bowl rings. Tom, if we have to change it, I am going to be upset.
The good news is I think if we do change it, we'll let you guys decide what it is.
We'll let you guys pick what 0 stars fake news means if the Eagles do happen to break our hearts and win the Super Bowl. All right, 1 star, there is a small shred of truth. 2 stars, people are talking. 3 stars, it's pretty likely. And then 4 stars, it's a fact. Dez caught it. Let's get into rumor number 2. And it's really news here, Tom. Rod Marinelli, he is returning. That is 4 stars.
He is back. He is going to be the defensive coordinator for at least 1 more year. I don't know how long Marinelli will remain the DC. He is kind of getting up there in age. He's at the point where it's like, hey, I don't know how much longer I want to keep doing this and going through the grind that is being a coach, especially a high-profile one. Jerry Jones confirmed this down at the Senior Bowl because Jones is there. We'll talk about the coaches. They're not there, but I like this move. I'm a big fan of Marinelli. Maybe he's not the world's greatest defensive coordinator, but he is one hell of a D-line coach. And the Cowboys' defense, when they had Sean Lee, was actually really good last year.
Yeah, really good. All right, Kellen Moore, he's coming in as the quarterbacks coach. We've talked about this for several weeks. It's now been confirmed more or less by Jerry.
It's not pen to paper signed, but it's
Which is weird. Just do it already.
But it's like, yeah, we're going to sign him. It's like they're working out, I don't know, the contract, whatever it is. This is a through and through Scott Linehan desired promotion because, as we've mentioned really for years now, Brett, Kellen Moore is going to be a great quarterbacks coach. Not a great quarterback, but he's very intelligent. He was instrumental in kind of prepping some of the game plans. This is a good hire for the Cowboys. I know not everyone likes it because, well, Moore was not a good quarterback, but he is going to be a really good coach for the Dallas Cowboys.
Go ahead and get those reactions in here. Hartford, A grade on the hiring of Kellen Moore. B for is the wow face. Laughy face is a C. And just give us a like if you don't know and don't really have that much of an opinion of a quarterback's coach.
Oh, well, positional coaches are tough. How much impact do they actually have? And in the end, I think this is still going to be the Linehan system and having him have the most input. But Kellen Moore, and I know the Cowboys feel this way, they think he is a rising star in the coaching ranks. That's why you see him. Look, the Cowboys could give him a futures deal, have him come back for another year and try and play. He's like, you know what, I'm going to go be a coach. And at this age, you don't often see that.
Yeah, I mean, at that age, he could become an offensive coordinator pretty quickly and be one of the youngest coaches in the NFL.
He absolutely could.
If he turns out to be a good coach.
If things go right. We'll see.
All right, number 4 on the news and rumors roundup, Mark Colombo. What's his deal in terms of tight end coach, Tom? That is an open position.
Yeah, so it's open position and he interviewed for it.
Yep.
And I'm kind of surprised that he interviewed because, yeah, there's some connection between the offensive line and tight ends. You know, there's the blocking involved and all that. But he wasn't a tight end. And maybe this is just me kind of picturing ahead here. Like when Jason Witten retires, I want him as the tight ends coach. So I don't want to hire another former player. I would rather hire an older guy, kind of like they've been doing. That okay, we'll bring you in as like a stopgap, and then once Jason's good to go, he's our new tight ends coach. Like that's just me thinking.
Yeah,
ahead.
but I mean, who's to say Jason Witten even wants to be a tight ends coach or a coach at all?
Well, do you remember the crazy story of Jason Witten in the Tennessee job at one point?
Talk about fake news.
We didn't have the rumor meter for that point. It would have been perfect because that would have been fake news.
Yeah,
that he was going to leave. He was going to retire mid-year to go be the Tennessee head coach.
That's right. All right, I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in about Jason Garrett, whether or not he's on the hot seat. Let's talk about it here. Is he on the hot seat? Is he not on the hot seat? Jerry came out this week, said he's not on the hot seat going into 2018.
If you listen and you take the word of Jerry Jones as gospel, he's not on the hot seat.
What's Jerry going to say, though? He didn't fire him this year, so I mean, you got to give him the vote of confidence, right?
I was so tempted to just make this fake news. But I didn't think it was a good idea to accuse the Cowboys owner of being fake news. So I went with 1 star, but here's the deal.
Hey, we accuse our president of being fake news all the time, so what's wrong with doing it with Jerry?
It's a good point.
I bet people in the comments, if they wanted to, would probably say Jerry is fake news a lot of times.
It's a good point, to be fair. But look, I also don't believe Jerry at all. Like, Jerry is not being honest here. And I think Jerry will say, well, he's not on my hot seat because we're going to make the playoffs. But if the Cowboys miss the playoffs again, Garrett's not coming back.
Yep.
Unless there's some crazy scenario where everyone gets hurt, he's not coming back. Now, if they make the playoffs, I think he's safe. But if the Cowboys miss the playoffs again next year, I don't see how that Jerry Jones will keep Jason Garrett because he's going to be really upset missing the playoffs in back-to-back years with a team that should be ready to win now.
Yeah, this team should be ready to win now. All right, Tom, I think we're going to talk about it plenty.
Yes, we are.
This offseason, we're going to talk about it plenty in 2018. Whether or not Jason Garrett can get it turned around again and get into that 10-11 win range that gets him into the playoffs. Let's go to a comment here from John. Garrett is Jerry Jones' puppet, that's why.
Jerry does like Jason a lot because Jason says yes, sir, quite a bit. Puppet, I understand here.
This is certainly something that gets brought up quite a bit in terms of whether or not that's why Jason Garrett is the head coach.
I would prefer not the term puppet, but how about the term yes man?
Sure.
I think that might be just a little bit accurate and more fair. But I do get what you're saying.
All right, Steve, what has he done? Nothing. 9 years of nothing.
He won a playoff game.
He won a playoff game, been in the playoffs.
We're on the same page here, Steve.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, this is what it's like to be a Cowboys fan at this stage in the game. It has been over 20 years since the Cowboys have been to the Super Bowl. Let's talk about this. Cowboys have been were last in the Super Bowl in 1995. It's 2017. It'll be at least 23 years, assuming they make it back to the Super Bowl next year, which, come on. And so the Giants have won 2 Super Bowl rings. The Eagles have been to the Super Bowl twice. Well, unfortunately, the Redskins are no good. So that's the NFC East. All right, let's get back to the news and rumors roundup. Number 6 here, the Cowboys coaches are not at the Senior Bowl this week. Tom, does that really matter?
Well, yes and no. It's news to me because they always go.
Yeah.
Like, they have always been in the Senior Bowl, and they've been in the scenario where they've actually coached the Senior Bowl, and they are always there. And then this year, now they're not. They're not at the Senior Bowl, and it's strange for me to see that because Jerry Jones said, look, they're going to go evaluate last year and evaluate the other teams, and we're going to start the process of putting in the changes we're going to make. But they can do that in other years and still be at the Senior Bowl. So I'm trying to figure out why. A couple different reasons. One, the team trusts the scouts to get the guys that fit the coach's system. And two, maybe guys like Linehan and Marinelli aren't going to get as much input as we saw last year. Look, Taco Charlton through and through was a Marinelli preference pick. Maybe you won't do that as similar this year, which I think would bode well for my draft crush Vita Vea to be such, because he's not a Marinelli guy, but he's a talent of the top 20 pick.
All right, let's move on here. News and rumor number 7. In terms of DeMarcus Lawrence, he is a free agent. Can the Cowboys get a long-term deal done? And then more appropriately, do they want to?
More in terms of, do they want one? Yeah, 4 stars, and that's kind of like a of course they want a long-term deal done for DeMarcus Lawrence. And
well, you do see sometimes teams shy away from these franchise tag type of players.
It's true.
In terms of the long-term deal, because look, DeMarcus Lawrence has had injury issues. He hasn't been on the field a ton throughout his career. The franchise tag could make a lot more sense, and then you move on and play the game that the Washington Redskins have played with Kirk Cousins.
And I don't want to play that game with Kirk Cousins, though. And I think with DeMarcus Lawrence, this is what the Cowboys thought he could be when they drafted him. And now that they've seen him do it for a full year, and that was maybe an issue we'll get to another guy here in a minute, he's done it for a full year. They want to get him locked up. Jerry Jones was very vocal at the beginning of this year saying, I want a war daddy. I want a dynamite defensive end who's going to get to the passer. That's what Tank was this year. So it's no surprise that they want a long-term contract. They could still franchise tag him and then work out a deal. That's more or less what Steven said this week. But I would be surprised if when we start week 1, DeMarcus Lawrence does not have that long-term contract.
Yeah, Steven did a lot of talking to the 4-Star Telegram. A lot of stuff to say, doing some contract negotiations through the media. But he did say first goal is to sign him to a long-term deal. And they're certainly going to roll up their sleeves and see if they can do something without DeMarcus having to sign the franchise tag. So, Cowboys fans, DeMarcus Lawrence will be a Cowboy next year. Whether or not he is on a long-term deal or on a 1-year franchise tag remains to be seen. All right, let's move on. Sticking on the defensive line, how about David Irving? Doesn't sound like the Cowboys are getting a long-term deal done with Irving here.
I mean, Stephen Jones basically came out and said, we're not going to get a long-term deal done with David. And they
don't really have to either.
This whole scenario, it was a weird burp cough hybrid, excuse me. This whole situation is weird to me. Like, David Irving was really good for the Cowboys, and there's the reports that they're going to use only a second-round tender on him and risk losing him, and I don't really get why. Like, we know what David Irving can be. I suppose I get the side of, you want to see him play for a full year, but I kind of get the vibe that the Cowboys don't trust David Irving at all. And I think they're almost hoping, oh man, let's just get a second-round tender and let's just kind of almost move on from him. And that's really weird for me because he was really good. Like, he racked up sacks. I know he's not great against the run, but why wouldn't you spend a first-round tender and say, yeah, we're going to keep him, we're going to see if he plays the full year, and then go from there? By putting a second-round tender on him, you're asking teams, hey, come take him. Like, we'll allow him to leave and we'll take the draft pick. It's just, there is more going on between the Cowboys and David Irving than I think has been fully reported in the press and in the media.
Yeah, so David Irving, of course, missed the first 4 games last year due to a suspension, then missed several games due to a concussion at the end of the year. There is certainly something more to this story and whether or not the Cowboys can get something done. Comment here from Jeremy, unless Irving gives us a discount, I don't see him staying.
And I think that's kind of the overall point when it comes to this year's particular contract negotiations. David Irving wants to be paid like his max ability, which is the absurd little run he went on when he was healthy. The Cowboys are like, look, we haven't seen you stay healthy. We're not going to give you that, and we're going to give you what ends up being a low ball offer from Irving's perspective. So this is a situation where you'll see Irving play under the RFA tag, but why wouldn't it be a first-round tender? That's where I'm having the disconnect with.
All right, let's move on here. Number 9. Okay. We talked about this last week, Byron Jones.
I had to put this in, I had to do it.
Lots of comments. Is Byron Jones fast?
Yeah,
so
he is.
That's what we say. Comments, it was no. He's not fast. You know what? It's fake news. He is fast.
Yeah. Look, we have the data to back it up here. Per the New York Times.
We got you here, guys. We love you, but we got you.
Per the New York Times, Byron Jones was clocked.
Wait, the New York Times, though, isn't it fake news?
No, not when it comes to sports.
Oh, okay, cool.
See? Anyway, Byron Jones was clocked as the fastest NFL player this year, hitting above 22 miles per hour. Now, I know that maybe guys like Tyreek Hill didn't have to reach that peak speed, but when
Tyreek Hill's so fast that he never okay.
But when you clock at 22 miles per hour, you are fast.
Yes.
Like, and this is not like me running in the neighborhood street when they have the slow down speedometer thing and a car goes by and you're clocked to like 25. You're like, oh yeah, see, I'm that fast. No, this is actual 22.
Today are perfect.
Thank you. Oh, I did that as a kid too, so it's fine. But with Byron Jones is a freaky fast athlete. I also know that he holds the world record for longest broad jump. He set that at the combine. He is a freak athlete.
Why isn't he in the Olympics?
Because football pays more.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, dude, he's unreal.
All right.
He is fast.
So, guys.
No more telling me otherwise.
Guys, we did some digging after you guys said he wasn't fast last week, so we found it. He is fast. It's there.
And
he's fast.
And this is not just track speed, it's also pad speed.
Yeah, it's football speed. He clocked as the fastest NFL player during a game this season. All right, let's move on. Number 10 here, Dez Bryant. He's a distraction, Tom.
Well,
according to Stephen Jones.
Well, which Jones do you want to listen to? Do you want to listen to Stephen, where he is a distraction, or Jerry, where he's like basically saying, I love Dez. I love Lamp. I love Dez. Like, so I'm giving it 3 stars because I tend to lean towards Stephen Jones. I don't know if Dez is really a distraction to his teammates, but we always talk about his sideline antics. So I don't think it's black and white. But I do think it leans more toward, he's a bit of a distraction because he gets really passionate on the sidelines and the cameras always capture it.
Yeah, and it's not fair to Dez either in terms of the media's insistence. I'd say the national broadcast partners' insistence on showing Dez's antics on the sideline. So, all right, Tom, Dez is due a lot of money. He's not performing to that contract.
He's not.
He is a cut candidate. Cowboys can save how much if they were to cut him?
It's $8 million if they cut him outright, $12.5 if they wait till after June 1st, which is probably the best way to go about doing it.
So we've seen a lot of comments. We've discussed whether or not the Cowboys should cut Dez Bryant. Here's my take. I don't think they should. And I don't think it makes sense for them to cut him in 2018 and save that money and get nothing in return. The most amount of savings is going to come with a post-June 1 cut out of Dez Bryant's contract. And so if they were to do it, it's past free agency, it's past the draft, the Cowboys wouldn't have anybody there to replace him and therefore play as that wide receiver 1. Let's not talk about Bryce Butler being wide receiver 1. Come on, guys, he's not. So if the Cowboys were to cut Dez, they're sitting there without a wide receiver 1. This team is set up to win. This team should be in the playoffs next year, and if you get rid of Dez, you don't have a wide receiver 1 to try and make that run. So certainly get your guys' comments in on whether or not you think Dez Bryant is a distraction or whether or not you think the Cowboys should cut him, but that's my take. Cowboys should not cut Dez because this team is set up to win, and if you get rid of Dez in 2018, you're without a key target for Dak Prescott.
And I think the bigger issue for the Cowboys wide receiver core is that Dez really has no help. Look, I love Jason Witten, but Witten does not get double teams. Like he is a reliable target, but he's not a guy that defenses truly fear. That's how he always gets open. Terrence Williams, well, I think the commenters and us are in agreement. He's not very good. Bryce Butler, also not that good. He actually had a higher percentage of drops than Dez Bryant did. So I know we hate Dez's drops. You would hate Bryce Butler if he played a lot more. And Cole Beasley was not the same player. The Cowboys truly lack a real good number 2 wide receiver, which is why, by the way, I think the Cowboys keep Dez, but in round 2 or 3 at the worst case, I think they target a wide receiver.
Let's talk about some of those draftable wide receivers. Christopher asking about James Washington.
I like Washington. Look, I don't know what his best trait is, but I do know he is really, really productive, and I'm not going to just ignore that production. I don't know if he's there in round 2 for the Dallas Cowboys, but if he is, I think he'd be a really, really good fit.
Hey, Pete, you think the Browns give up the number 4 pick so the Cowboys could go up?
That'd be nice.
All right, Michael here saying Romo made Dez.
I don't know if Romo made Dez, but I think Romo was a much better fit with Dez. And I think of one play in particular, I've mentioned a lot, Brett, that back shoulder fade. That may have been Romo's best throw. Like, of all the throws Tono can make outside of the spinning away from pressure and throwing it off balance, that was Romo's best throw. That's not Dak's best throw. And I think you've seen it with the way the Cowboys use their red zone offense. They don't use that back shoulder fade all that much. They now like to use the slant across the middle with Dez in the red zone, and it does work. Get it up high, let Dez go get it. The chemistry isn't quite there between Dak and Dez, and I think the scheme does play a big factor in that.
Dora doesn't like your comment about Jason Witten.
I love Jason. Jason is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but let's not pretend that he's still prime Jason Witten. He's still a reliable tight end, but he is not a Jimmy Graham and over-the-middle threat anymore. That's not who he is.
All right, whether or not the Cowboys could address the Dez issue in the draft or in free agency, we will talk more about that. We have got the top free agent targets the Cowboys could look at this offseason coming up right after 2 more news and rumors items. First up here, number 11, Zeke. He was a distraction last year. Yeah.
Well, duh.
4 stars.
Steven came out and
said
it again. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
Steven had a lot to say this week.
Yeah, he was very talkative. Normally Jerry handles all this. I think they're giving Steven a little bit more media power.
Well, I like that, though.
Yeah, well, I like Stephen Jones a lot. I think he's a little bit more measured than Jerry's at times, and the Johnny Manziel situation. Which, thank God for Steven. Well, when it comes to Zeke, there's no way it wasn't a distraction, and I think it's naive to say it wasn't, because every week it was, shit, is Zeke going to play this week?
Yeah.
That weighs a lot on Zeke and on the team as a whole.
I felt like it weighed on the team really early in the season.
It definitely did.
That Denver game, for example. Ugh. All right. One more here. Kayvon Frazier, he had some knee surgery.
And it wasn't major knee surgery. This was more of a cleanup procedure. There's something minor wrong with the knee. Let's just go in. We'll clean it up, whether it be draining the fluid, whatever. He's going to be fine. This is not anything to be concerned about, but yes, he underwent surgery. He'll be back again next year as the potential in-box safety who will get plenty of playing time and do very well on special teams as well. So Frazier's going to be fine, but yes, he underwent knee surgery in the offseason.
That was our Cowboys news and rumors roundup for, what's our today's date? All right, January 25th. That's today's date. Today's Cowboys Report is sponsored by the Guild. New concept in the hospitality, luxury lodging at the finest residential buildings in Austin, right here in Dallas. Coming soon to Nashville, Boston, and Miami, Florida. Tom, those friends of ours that are going to come visit us for the NFL Draft this year.
You guys better be here.
You guys better be here. Visit stayguild.com. Use the promo code ChatSports for 15% off your stay. All right, Tom, let's get into some free agents, top offensive free agents of 2018 that the Cowboys could sign. Quick weigh in here.
Yeah.
Who do you guys want? Who do you guys want the Cowboys to sign? No.
Okay.
If money was no object, if everybody wanted to come play for the Dallas Cowboys, who do you want the Cowboys to sign?
But that's not how it works, though, Brett.
So? So it's more fun this way.
It is more fun this way, and I will do my little.
Sammy Watkins. There it is.
There we go.
We got it within 2 minutes.
I'd love Sammy Watkins, but I want to remind everyone. The Cowboys are not going to spend a lot in free agency, and here's why. Whatever money you allocate to signing DeMarcus Lawrence, let's just say $17 million, that's about what the franchise tag is. When you factor in even cutting guys like James Hanna, Benson Mayowa, heck, even Cole Beasley, you only end up with roughly $12 million in spending money, and that doesn't include Jonathan Cooper. That doesn't include Anthony Hitchens. And you can end up getting more money by cutting guys like Tyrone Crawford, Orlando Scandrick, and Dez Bryant, but you're not going to have that money in free agency. So when it comes to spending money, you're looking at about $12 million in actual money to spend on other teams' free agents. That's not much. So we're going to go through a bunch of different guys, some realistic, some not. Offensive players today, defensive players next week. But just remember, you're looking at 12-ish million. Guys like Mike Evans, not a free agent. That's not going to happen. So awesome as that would be, though.
Hey, I did see this one come up in comments, and let's just get it out of the way, even though we're not talking about defense this week. Earl Thomas.
Not a free agent.
He's not a free agent.
But next year.
Next year, we'll talk
baby.
about Earl Thomas.
Yeah, baby.
Even though he did say he wanted to be a Cowboy, it's not going to happen until next year. All right, let's get the ball rolling. Let's start at the quarterback position, Mark Sanchez.
I actually want him back, Brett. Is that weird to say?
It's weird.
I thought he was a good backup for the Dallas Cowboys. Not a guy you ever want to play, but I remain of the belief the Cowboys need a veteran backup quarterback. And Sanchez and Dak, I think, got along pretty well. We always have to give a lot of credit to Romo, and rightfully so, but Sanchez was often in Dak's ear. I thought he was good for Dak.
All right, let's stick at the quarterback position. Again, backup option, Matt Moore.
I remain a very big fan of one Matt Moore because Matt Moore never should have been let go of the Cowboys in the first place. I didn't like trying to sneak him out of the practice squad. He has had a very long career. He is a free agent once again. I would like to bring back Matt Moore as the veteran backup. And they're only looking at these type of quarterbacks because, once again, folks, they're not going to spend money on a new quarterback. It is a veteran backup or nothing here.
All right, those are a couple of quarterback options. It's going to be a backup, though.
Yes, it's not going to be a starter.
Dak Prescott is the Cowboys' quarterback, so those of you that don't want Dak as a quarterback, you're going to have to find a new team, I guess. I don't know.
And I think you can still sign a Matt Moore or a Mark Sanders and keep Cooper Rush on the roster as well.
All right, let's move over to the running back position. How about Jamal Charles in terms of, again, a backup?
It's a fun name because, look, Jamal Charles used to be really good.
Didn't do that much in Denver, though.
He's not the same player he once was. I think he still wants to be a starter. I would be fine with him as a change of pace or third down back. I don't know if that's what Charles wants. I don't know how much money he would want. You could end up seeing the Cowboys, rather than sign a pricey free agent or any free agent, go invest a young draft pick again. Because they'll have plenty this year in the draft. Yeah,
I could see the Cowboys going and getting a running back there in the draft. All right, Shane Vereen, he's another option.
A very common theme here for these halfbacks, folks. Third down backs. That's exactly what Shane Vereen is. He's not going to get a ton of carries, and that's not what he's best at. He's a scat back.
I was pretty amazed about the amount of downs that Ezekiel Elliott played this year when obviously he wasn't suspended. And I think the Cowboys could really use a third down type of back to spell Zeke a little bit more than they did this year.
Because if you're going to give Zeke a breather, you would rather do it on third down when you're typically going to be passing anyway. So I think that's where that makes the most sense.
All right, let's go to another running back here, C.J. Spiller.
Spiller had such a weird year. He was constantly getting cut by the Chiefs and then re-signed. And you see the stats there, 2 carries, no yards, and a TD. It was a weird year for C.J. Spiller. I think he is at the tail end of his career. Even if the Cowboys sign him, there's no guarantee I think he actually makes the roster. I don't know if it's a surefire lock that he is on the Cowboys if he were to be signed.
All right, let's go to another familiar face to Cowboys fans, and that's Lance Dunbar.
Remember how good he was with Romo that one year before he got hurt, just the check down king? My fear with Dunbar in terms of coming to the Cowboys, I think he might want a bigger role, and that's why he left in the first place.
Right.
Like Dunbar, I've always liked. He offers some return value too.
Well, I know he was injured in 2017, but it's not like he would have had a bigger role with the Rams this year.
He might, because Todd Gurley was balling out. But with Dunbar, you have a classic third down back. The big issue with Dunbar is it was very obvious when he was on the field, the Cowboys were not running the football. It was almost exclusively pass plays. That was a big concern of mine. I still like Dunbar. If he wants to come back cheap, I'm all for it as that third down scat back type.
All right, one more running back for you guys to consider as a backup. Andre Ellington, the former Cardinal and Texan.
I've always liked Andre Ellington. He played for both teams this year. He's best as a third down back. He can get some work, and I think he'd be a good backup for the Dallas Cowboys, even though I think he's been a bit frustrated by not getting work and hasn't always been that effective. But when it comes to Andre Ellington, I do like him as a third down back, and I think he'd be the cheap type of option the Cowboys could look for where you're looking, hey, let's give at most $1 million contract to this backup here.
Tom, I'm just going to throw out another name. What about Darren McFadden?
Unretiring?
Do you think he'd unretire or anything like that?
I think at this point, maybe, but not to come back for the Cowboys. I think he knows his time with the Cowboys is over. Maybe if someone team offers him more playing time, he'd unretire, but who would actually do that?
All right, let's get into some wide receivers. And the first one up for you is the one that we want to talk about quite a bit. We already saw some comments about Sammy Watkins.
So I have a bold prediction. If the Cowboys were to somehow get Sammy Watkins, he would end up being Des Bryant in terms of the way that the fan base views him. Teams would you guys would get really tired of Sammy Watkins real fast because look at the stat line. It's not that good.
Yeah.
Take away the TDs and it's like, that's not number 2 wide receiver. That's T-Will. That's what that is. Of course, it is a little deceptive because Sammy Watkins got all the attention with the Rams, and we know he's talented. I think Watkins, if he's franchise tagged, it's overpaying him because I love his talent. The production hasn't always been there, though, and that's a concern for me. With that said, he is really good when he's healthy. Injury is also a big concern for Sammy Watkins. So I understand why a lot of the fans want him because he is talented. I think he would draw some of the ire of the fan base, though.
Lots of names out there on the wide receiver market this coming offseason. Jarvis Landry is certainly one of the biggest ones there. not going to be likely, though, Cowboys fans.
He and Dak would be BFFs because he is a slot receiver who doesn't go deep downfield. Dak and he would have a very good connection.
That would work.
Look, the issue is that Jarvis Landry reportedly won $16 million.
Cowboys are already paying that to Dez.
As we mentioned earlier, the Cowboys are looking at about $12 million in spending money. So you're going $4 million in the negative and not addressing any other positions. So it'd be cool to have Jarvis Landry, but he is going to be too expensive for Dallas to actually consider as an option.
All right, let's go to Allen Robinson then.
The injury is going to drive down his price tag. I wouldn't be surprised if he took a Terrell Pryor, Alshon Jeffrey type deal, maybe 1 year $12 million, 1 year $10 million, but it's not going to be in the Cowboys' price range. Even at $8 million, you're trying to cut Dez. Are you really getting an upgrade from going to Dez from Allen Robinson? I like Allen. Is he going to be that much better than Dez Bryant? I don't know if he's actually going to be. And even then, you're still eating money against Dez, and you're still taking up a significant chunk of your spending money that you can spend elsewhere on other positions and just bring back Dez when it's roughly a net gain of 0.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my overarching theme here for the wide receivers.
Well, and the Cowboys would have trouble going after any of these guys in free agency because of because of you haven't cut Dez yet.
Yeah.
So even if one of these guys is going to take over for Dez, it can't happen because there's not enough money, and you wouldn't get any of the Dez savings until after these guys will have already signed. So the draft is where you're going to, at best, fill this position. Mm-hmm. All right, Tom, got a comment here from Jeremy. I'd rather have Josh Gordon than Sammy Watkins. So,
why, Jeremy?
Well, Jeremy, that is what we call a segue.
So this is, I am breaking my own rules by including Josh Gordon. But I knew we were going to have Josh Gordon in the comments, so I had to put him in here. He is an exclusive rights free agent, which is what David Irving was last year. Basically, the Browns and the kids go, hey, Josh Gordon, we like you. Here is your contract for about the vet minimum at most, and take it or don't play.
Yep.
Now, so in the end,
of course, it may be Josh Gordon. You never know.
In the end, Josh Gordon is kind of more of a trade target for the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't hate that. But I think the Browns are gonna be like, "Hey, he's still Josh Gordon. He's really good. We're asking for at least a second-round pick, maybe even some other picks as well." I don't know if the Cowboys would do that.
Foreshadowing to future Cowboys reports. Top trade targets.
And do we want Josh Gordon and Dez Bryant in the same locker room?
Ooh.
I
think that's disrespectful to Dez.
It is a little bit. Those are different issues, but those guys are both really, really good receivers. I don't know if they'd become best friends is my concern. I love Josh Gordon. I'm a big fan of Flash, but I don't know if he's a guy the Cowboys want to bring into the locker room, given some other issues with guys like Randy Gregory.
Well, yeah, that's where I would go. I wouldn't go to Dez on this comparison. I would go to the other Cowboys weed problems. All right, let's move on and go to former Redskins receiver and former Browns receiver Terrell Pryor.
I'm curious of the comments view because I think people would like, oh yeah, give us Terrell Pryor. If you guys don't like Dez, you're going to hate Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor had a great year in 2016, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the issue. The target to catch ratio was the same this year. We rip on Dez for not making plays enough and not making enough of the most use of his targets. Terrell Pryor is just as bad, if not worse. Mm-hmm. He'll put up big numbers in terms of volume, but as fun as he is to watch, I don't think he's actually that good. So I would have a hard pass on Terrell Pryor, even though he's a big, good-bodied threat.
Yeah, in an offense like the Redskins, he just wasn't able to do anything. Really, those wide receivers in general.
Yeah, it was a rough year. They gave the ball to Thompson and the tight ends.
All right, let's go to another Jags receiver here, and that's Marquise Lee.
I've always liked Marquise Lee, but I think he's going to kind of fall into some of this Allen Robinson territory where he's going to make $6-7 million even. I think maybe near the minimum, and at that point, that's such a significant chunk of your cap space. Doesn't it make more sense to not sign a Marquise Lee, go out and draft a receiver in round 2, and invest that money in a guy like Anthony Hitchens or an offensive lineman or some more defensive players? That's kind of where I'm at with a guy like Marquise Lee. I like him, but you have to approach it from a investment perspective and making the most use of your funds. I don't think a guy like Marquise Lee is that in the end.
It's kind of amazing to me that the Jags are producing 2 of the top wide receiver free agents this year.
Well, production in spite of Blake Bortles.
Exactly. So Blake Bortles obviously did something, right?
threw it near him.
Come on.
I don't like Blake Bortles. I'm sorry.
All right, fine. We'll move on from the Jags. Let's talk about Paul Richardson, former Seahawk.
So these are sort of, by the way, I think in terms of the least likely to most likely. And we're getting into that. This could actually happen because Richardson is very talented and he's a deep threat. He would be your Bryce Butler replacement, and a better one. You would move T. Will down to the number 4 receiver spot. And Richardson has the upside. The big concern for me is he's a little inconsistent and he has injury issues overall. That concerns me quite a bit with Richardson. But I think the upside is there that the Cowboys signed Richardson, let's say, a 1-year, $5 million deal or $4 million deal. I'd actually like that move quite a bit.
Cherky says Randy Moss. Throwing that one out there. All right, let's go to Arizona Cardinal John Brown.
Brown is such an interesting player because when he's on the field and healthy, he's actually really good. The issue is he's never on the field and healthy. He has the sickle cell trait, and that's led to a lot of injuries, namely some soft tissue issues for him. If he signs on a cheap prove-it contract, I like John Brown as an option. I don't know if he's going to get that, though, because teams going to be like, oh, man, when he's on the field, he's good. Like, he's really good. I like John Brown as a fit. I do think he's an actual possible option for the Cowboys, but I think he might take a bigger role elsewhere because he's going to be like, you got T. Will, you're not going to cut him. Let me go get a better spot where I know I'm going to get more targets.
All right, one more wide receiver for you guys to chew on this offseason, and that's Taylor Gabriel.
If he were a little bit bigger, he'd be perfect. But I think he might be limited to only the slot guy, and we already have Cole and Ryan Switzer. Size matters, Brett. Size matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But he'd be a good fit for Dak. He's the type of receiver who gets open with his route running, and that's what you want to see for Dak. Dak is not going to be, at this point in his career, a guy that throws players open. And even when he does and throws Terrence Williams open, he drops it and it gets picked off. But a guy like Gabriel gets open pretty, not easy, but gets open enough that it'd be a good fit for Dak, but he might be a little bit too small. So you could see a bottom-tier free agent signing, but I think the draft is where the Cowboys are going to look for wide receivers.
So, all right, let's move into tight end. It feels like you included tight ends just for the sake of including tight ends.
Yes, everyone got a position. All positions matter.
All positions matter. Jimmy Graham is a free agent tight end.
Look, if Jason Witten retired
you didn't
tomorrow,
get that? Oh man,
I got it.
He is a free agent tight end. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
he's not coming to the Cowboys.
No, he's not. He's absolutely not. Because if Jason Witten retired, maybe he'd be more of an option. But Jimmy Graham is going to be out of the Cowboys' price range. If Witten retired, all of a sudden you've got another $6.5 million to spend. You can send some of that towards a guy like Jimmy Graham, but he's going to go somewhere else. As fun as he would be with Dak Prescott.
So when we say top 25 free agent targets for the Cowboys, we're not necessarily saying, look, these are going to be signed.
No, because I wanted to give the guys that I figured people would comment about. And I think I've been proven right with a couple of these comments
That's right.
here.
Lots to talk about here. There are a lot of big-name free agents out there this offseason, but it doesn't mean the Cowboys are coming anywhere near some of these guys. Tyler Eifert's probably in that realm as well.
He's really good when he's on the field.
Yeah.
But like some other guys, he's never on the field. Tyler Eifert just cannot stay healthy. At this point in his career, he's never going to stay healthy. When he's on the field, he's probably a top 5 tight end in the NFL. But he's always hurt with some kind of injury. And I think with Eifert, again, if Witten was gone, maybe he'd make more sense. But I think the Cowboys look to say, no. You could maybe see a team, maybe even the Cowboys go, hey, we'll give you a very cheap 1-year proof contract. At that point, I'd like Eifert a lot as a fit. But I think he's going to get more money and more playing time elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't think the Cowboys really need a tight end either, Tom. All right, let's go to Trey Burton here. One more tight end option here, the tight end from the Eagles.
If he ends up being cheaper than expected, I would actually really like Trey Burton. I think he's a guy that proved himself when he's been on the field. He's a really good athlete, thrived when Zach Ertz was hurt or out. I would love to get Trey Burton, but I think he is going to say, I can get more money elsewhere and more playing time. So I think Burton entering free agency might be a year too early on that end. Plus, you got Rico Gathers, right, Brett?
That's what I was going for. John says bring back Martellus Bennett.
Yeah, Martellus Bennett's not coming back to the Dallas Cowboys. And frankly, he quit on the Packers. I don't want to touch Martellus Bennett. Martellus Bennett, it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Jason Witten didn't mentor me enough. My back hurts. I have no interest in Martellus Bennett.
Back hurts.
I have zero interest in Bennett.
Okay, let's move to the offensive line. This could be a position where the Cowboys try and go find somebody here, Tom. Start with Matt Slauson.
Look, I could have probably had 25 guys on here, but it would have been a lot of names that most people hadn't heard of, so I tried to narrow it down and focus on some bigger names. And if the Cowboys do lose Jonathan Cooper, I'd like Matt Slauson. He can play guard or center, can fill that backup role, or be a starter. He wasn't that good this year, but he was banged up. I think he'd be a quality left guard. He is the type of guy you could sign for a year, draft another guard in the mid-rounds, groom that guard, and then have him replace Matt Slauson.
Cowboys do need a little bit of help there, whether it's at left guard or backup left tackle.
You need depth on the line, and I think you'll see the Cowboys invest a lot of draft picks.
Yeah.
Hope you hit on one or two, knowing you're going to miss on.
Yeah, guys like Slauson could make sense. Another guy, Luke Jokel, could make a little bit of sense. I know he hasn't lived up to being that number 2 overall draft pick, though, Tom.
It all depends on how much money Luke Jokel costs. If I know one thing about the Cowboys, they like those failed first-round picks, like Jonathan Cooper.
Sure.
And maybe, I mean, look, if you put Jokel in between Tyron Smith and Travis Frederick, he probably ends up being at least league average, right? So I think you'll see the Cowboys look at guys that haven't been all that good as of late, and I think you'll see the team try and sign a cheaper option when it comes to offensive line play. Because they're not going to invest a lot of money because they can't. They've already got too much tied up. Considering
how bad the Seahawks offensive line was this past year, it's amazing that you've got 2 of them on this list. Oday Abushi is next.
That's because they're cheap.
Yeah.
Like, cheap matters here for the offensive line. He's bounced around for the NFL. He's kind of more of a backup guard. I think he could be okay at left guard because you're going to be able to go cheaper and less talented because the play of Tyron Smith and the play of Travis Frederick will help cover up for that as long as Tyron Smith is healthy.
All right, let's talk about Alex Boone next.
He was not good this year. He's been better in years past. He is again in that Matt Slauson category of, hey, here's a veteran guard that we can sign, bring in, and groom another younger guard behind him that we spend a mid-round pick on.
2 more offensive linemen to talk about. Next one, Xavier Suafilo.
Nailed it, Brett.
Nailed
nice
it.
job. I did give you the pronunciation.
Thanks,
so
appreciate it.
I tried to help you out there,
you.
so I didn't leave you out on right there. He's been a bit of a bust as a second-round pick. He has not been very good, but I think the Cowboys liked him coming out. And I think you'd see them, say, hey, look, he was not good. Come be with the Cowboys. Come sign a cheap 1-year deal and say, hey, we're going to put you between Tyron Smith and Travis Frederick. We're going to make you a lot better. And I think that actually becomes a good selling point for the Dallas Cowboys. If you're a lineman who has struggled as of late, you're not going to get a big contract. Why not go to Dallas, make yourself look better, sign that prove-it deal, and then leave and get more money elsewhere? I think that actually makes some sense. And I think if you see the Cowboys invest some money in free agency in the offseason, I think the offensive line is where that money goes.
Yeah, it's a decent place to kind of revitalize your career.
It is.
And in terms of that position as well, Cowboys have consistently had a solid offensive line. Okay, one more here on the offensive line. That's Greg Robinson.
Another failed draft pick, and he was with the Lions this year. It did not go very well. He strikes me as a swing tackle option. Don't know how much I would like it, but if it's the failed high draft pick and it allows you to look elsewhere in the draft and still sign a guy like Greg Robinson for cheap and still draft somebody relatively early as well. I wouldn't mind getting a guy like Greg Robinson. I know he's not great, but hey, he can't be worse than Chaz Green, right? Right?
Sure.
Like how much worse could it actually be? Like, you would think that they'd be able to find a way to survive on that end. So I think that's where I kind of fit there. I did see a couple comments, Brett, actually.
Sure.
About one offensive lineman in particular, and it was Desmond Harrison of West Georgia. And that is an interesting name. We'll go over some more draft picks here, and we'll discuss them as well. But Desmond Harrison is actually very, very old. And he was born in 1993. He's not going to be a fit for the Cowboys. I don't want to spend a high draft pick on a guy that's that old and is not going to be a fit there. Like, that's where I fit. So I am not looking at Desmond Harrison because a raw old tackle doesn't make sense as a fit.
I like comments from like these from Michael. Never heard of him. Because that's what happens when we talk about backup offensive linemen.
It is. That's what's going to happen at this part of the show.
All right, 25 free agents this offseason that the Cowboys could take a look at. There's some, let's say, varying degrees of likelihood from, let's just call it fake news to 4 stars, like we like to do here. Mark Sanchez, Matt Moore at the quarterback position.
I'll take either.
Jamal Charles, Shane Vereen, CJ Spiller.
Probably not going to happen.
Lance Dunbar, Andre Ellington, maybe?
Maybe, but I think they go young draft pick instead.
Yeah, as that backup running back slot. In terms of the wide receivers, the not going to happen, Sammy Watkins, Jarvis Landry, and Allen Robinson.
Nope, not happening.
Josh Gordon, he would have to be traded for it to happen.
I cheated here.
Yeah. Terrell Pryor, probably not going to happen. Marquise Lee, probably not going to happen. And maybe
we'll give
Paul
it like,
Richardson and John Brown.
Like 2 stars at most.
2 stars,
Same
that's
with
where
John.
we're getting at. Taylor Gabriel, does he get up into the 3-star range maybe?
I still think
Probably
it's
not.
2 because I don't think they signed a free agent wide receiver.
Yeah, you're going to have to go do it in the draft. The money-wise at the wide receiver position, it just isn't going to make sense for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. All right, tight end position, I'd give all of these 0 stars, Tom.
I would give, how about 1 star to Trey Burton?
Okay, fine.
Deal. So,
All right, let's go to the offensive line. Matt Slauson, Luke Jokel, O'Day Abushi, Alex Boone, Xavier Suafilo, and Greg Robinson
look,
as
there are
options
a
there.
whole lot of linemen that could be signed with the Cowboys, but we intentionally went with these guys because they're a little bit bigger name. They've been starters, and, well, you guys don't care about backup offensive linemen.
They don't?
No, unless they're really bad. That's when people care.
Do I care about backup offensive linemen?
You do when it's Chaz Green.
When it's
almost getting
Chaz Green.
Dak Prescott killed.
Yeah. I think we talked about it a lot, Tom.
Yeah.
Chaz Green is going to get Dak Prescott killed. Those were your words.
I think, well, it's not like Byron Bell was any better, but I was genuinely scared for Dak Prescott's health. 1 bad blindside hit, and all of a sudden you got Cooper Rush in the game, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, that isn't what the Cowboys wanted. All right, Cowboys Report. That was Thursday's edition. All right, Cowboys Report. 3 times a week now. Tom's going to be back on Sunday. He'll be back again on Tuesday. I'll be here on Thursdays going forward. We love you guys. We appreciate you tuning in so that we can expand our coverage of the Cowboys Report. Of course, sponsored by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code ChatSports for 15% off your next stay. What do you got for me, Tom?
Hey, next Thursday, defensive players the Cowboys could sign. I think you might see a little bit more action on that side of the ball than on the offensive side.
For Tom Downey, I am Brett Scott. That was this week's Cowboys Report. You guys stay classy out there.